Hey, what's up guys? My name is Moda and welcome back to the Mining Stacker YouTube channel. Today's video, we're going to do a review on the IceRiver AL0. We have had our original unit for a few weeks now, so we're going to give our overall thoughts and opinions on how it's been performing. We'll look at current profitability, what to look forward to in the future as far as that goes, look at hash rate increases and such, and kind of the overall strategy with this guy, right? I've been getting a lot of questions as to what is the appeal here, what is the reason, so we're just going to give my own personal strategies, what I'm looking forward to, and as well as give our thoughts on that new IceRiver RX0, which has very similar value propositions here. And we'll give our thoughts and opinions on what has happened there, because something did happen that's pretty significant, so we'll just give our overall thoughts there. Okay, so if that sounds good, guys, stay tuned. Let's get to this thing. So before we fully get started, just want to give a huge shout out to today's sponsor, and it is nhash.net. They are my personal preferred ASIC vendor. Even prior to this partnership sponsorship deal, is just who I've used to purchase all of my recent ASICs with, starting with the KS3M back last year. And every new unit I've purchased, I have purchased through them. Prior to that, why? It's as simple as their pricing. Out of the major stores, they have the most aggressive pricing, okay, and they're reliable shipping as well as fast shipping. When I got my KS5 Pro, I got it well ahead of pretty much everybody else. Even on this reseller batch of the AL0, did get mine in yesterday actually. So they are ahead of the game, get the job done, and of course, price aggressively. So whether it's this guy, any other ASIC you're looking for, they're the one who is my preferred vendor and will continue to be for those reasons. Okay, so again, if you're interested in any of those, regardless of what it is, I do have an affiliate link with them, and it does help support the channel for any of you guys interested. Okay, so let's get started with this, guys. So we have officially had our original unit now for a couple of weeks. For those of you guys just getting yours, if you're unfamiliar with how to set it up, we'll go through it just very briefly. There's a ton of videos on it, but just going over it real quick. My preferred app to find my device is Advanced IP Scanner, just because again, I've been using this thing for years. You scan your network, look for the new address, double click, log into it. Username is going to be admin. Your password will be 1 through 8, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You log in, go to mining setting, put in your preferred pool, which mine is viper.net. Add in your wallet. You should already have a wallet. If you don't, you need to create one. And that's essentially it. It's really that simple. Once you're up and hashing, you can see what's going on here in your dashboard, right? You're going to look at just your specs, you look at your stats. You obviously want to see that you're within your parameters. So as far as the unit goes, the big thing I noticed right off the bat, these things like to run hot. Initially, I had bought little fans for them just in case, you know, keep them cool. Typically, a lot of the times, mini ASICs, that's usually the battle, right? It's keeping these things cool. This guy likes to run hot. As a matter of fact, do not put an external fan on it. Even mine running indoors, again, mine is currently actively running back there. With the fan on, or even with the current fan settings on auto, it runs too damn cool. So initially, I was only getting around 350 to 370, 380, somewhere around there. You have to let that thing get hot. Okay, so realistically, so mine, the sweet spot for me, temperature-wise, is in this range. For the temperature to be somewhere between 70, 75 Celsius on temp 1, and it tends to be happy. So like on my mining setting, I have the fan not on auto, but I have it on 80%. Putting it on 80% gets it in that range. You're going to have to play with it on your own setting just because, again, it is going to be up to the ambient temperature, right? Mine is indoors. If yours is outdoors, it's going to be a different story. If your place is cooler, hotter, you're going to have to affect this. You're going to have to kind of play with it and see where the sweet spot is. For me, that just happened to be it. The unit so far has been running with 0 issues, right? Again, my pool of choice has been viper.net. That's who I used back on the FPGA days, and that's who I'm going to continue to use just because, again, they are my preferred pool. And overall performance has been excellent. One thing to note, kind of a weird thing, is that when you do put in your mining setting, number 1, you do have to put in the 3 pools. You can't get away with just putting in 1. For whatever reason, the initial unit I got, the one from IceRiver, it will automatically go to the second pool for whatever reason, right? Why that is, I have no idea. But Again, it forces you to put in the 3 anyway. Maybe that's something to do with that. What I did notice on the one I just got from NHash is that it goes right to the first pool, right? So kind of a weird thing. And it also does run a little bit cooler, right? So the first initial one was the batch directly from IceRiver. This is the updated batch from the resellers. Maybe has better thermal paste. I don't know, but might have to actually put the fan temp a little, or the fan percentage a little bit lower on this guy, just because it does run cooler. Which this is not just now, this has been from, it's been now about 18 hours. And again, I have them right next to each other. So that's not the reason either. So very interesting that there is literally about almost exactly a 5-degree difference the entire time. But performance wise, it's been on par, no issues there, no rejection. Same thing, I have it on Viper. And it's been going good. Now, as far as actual profitability and earnings and such, it's currently down to now 1.7 Alephium per day. It's between 1.7, 1.8. Obviously, it is going to fluctuate. It fluctuates anywhere from like 350 to freaking 500 gigahash at times. But again, you want your overall average to be at 800, right? My current actual earnings is going to be lower because, again, the second unit hasn't been on for a full 24 hours, right? So if you look at the estimated, it'll tell you around about how much it would be, and you can go from there, right? So again, I like Viper.net. It's just who I used back in those days. I love the stats. I love the specs. Their ping is extremely low. I love the dashboard. I love the layout. That's the reason I use them, right? It's going to be up to you as to what pool you decide, but they are one of the smaller pools. Again, you don't really want to hop on the #1 pool. You want to kind of spread out the hash rate. You want to decentralize things as best as possible. So that is another reason. But overall there, I love the layout, I love the specs, I love the stats, and I like them too, right? The devs, if you go into their Discord, easily accessible. You have any questions, awesome dudes. A lot of respect for them for what they did with Radiant, right? A lot of it has to do with them messing around with the little mult miner, the little FPGA, and for them actually making it so Viper.net would work with it, giving us another option, right? So it's things like that that makes you appreciative of certain things. So like for me, I'm gonna have that bias because of that, on top of the fact they're an awesome pool. That's why I love seeing stuff like that, right? So for me, you gain my loyalty through things like that, right? So pretty awesome performance overall. It's currently again at 1.7 for 1 unit. Obviously you're gonna double it for 2, and this is where things are going to get tricky, right? Because it has been on a downwards trend. Why is that? It's because of the hash rate continuing to increase, and it's only going to increase from here. Again, people that throughout this week are going to be getting their reseller batch of the AL0, right? Some of you guys got it yesterday, or some of you guys I saw even got it the day before, right? And others, they did get delayed because of that typhoon. So throughout the week, we are going to see the increases here. Okay, we can currently see on what to mine, you can kind of see their yield counter is actually correct. So if you're interested in kind of calculating your yield, I reference it to as yield, but it's your rewards, your daily rewards for the day, and that's what I like to focus on. I don't like to focus on the fiat profitability because again, that can swing wildly. Okay, if in 3 hours from now Alephium 3x's, it's going to go up drastically, or if it takes a 50% dump, it's going to jump drastically. What won't change though is your daily yield, right? And the reason I'm worried about the yield only, I don't necessarily care about the current profitability because I'm not selling now, right? I'm going to be selling in the bull market. That's when I'll be concerned with the price action. But for now, I'm just trying to stack as much Alephium as possible here. Okay, so currently the hash rate, depending on where you look, right? Pool Bay, I just checked them out. They have it freaking at 11.22 or down to 9. Obviously, it's going to fluctuate. The one I would have the most faith in is Alephium's current Explorer, and it's just going to fluctuate, and it's currently averaging about 10 petahash now, right? So it's going to go up and down. It goes from 10 to 9.3 to over 10, but it's currently in that range. Our prediction for once this batch would land, as well as the AL1s, because most of the AL1s that were ordered are in hand already, okay? So those are kind of accounted for. That's a big part of the reason they did go up as drastically as it did. But our overall prediction was for it to be at about 12. Are we there yet? No. Are we going to get there soon? Probably. Are we going to exceed that? 100%. right? So the question is how much and how fast, right? So we do have these units as well as all the GoldShell units and now these DragonBall units. Do I expect a lot from the DragonBall units? I don't see too many people buying them, but as we know, as what DragonBall has been doing, if people don't buy them, what are they going to do? They're just going to mine on the damn things. Okay, so don't expect it to be like, oh, well, nobody's going to buy them because they're overpriced or they're inefficient. If nobody does, they're just going to mine on them, right? We've already seen them do that. I don't expect things to change. I would account for that just to continue to happen. So don't expect those guys to unplug anytime soon. Expect the hash rate only to continue upwards. Okay, so regardless of where the market goes, there's a lot of manufacturers creating Alephium ASICs now, and they're going to continue to make these things. Okay, so going to be a lot of factors coming in, though, as far as what do you think is going to happen. The biggest thing is just to me, almost regardless of what happens, it's going to go up, right? If Alephium pumps, obviously there's going to be more interest. It's definitely going to go up. Prices will also go up. Even if Alephium kind of stays where it's at, things dump a little bit, I can also still see it going up because what's going to happen? There's probably going to be price reductions, which is going to make things more appealing for people who are looking more long-term anyway, for people like myself, right? So to me, it's just you have to consider that it's going to go up, which means what? Your yield is going to continue to go down, okay? So we'll see to what extent. I think for the most part, a lot of the initial effects are going to be felt. We're going to see it go anywhere up to 12 to 15 petahash here within the next few weeks, potentially. If things stay sideways, we may finally chill out and things will stay relaxed. But again, I think the next big catalyst will either be Alephium pumping or it'll be a new potential unit that would shake things up, right? And what we're kind of predicting is potentially IceRiver coming in with their mid to high-end unit, potentially shaking things up. Okay, because then at that point, if it is priced aggressively, what do you think is going to happen here? It's going to continue to go up. Your rewards are going to continue to go down. Okay. So again, there's going to be different units. There's the AL0s, there's the GoldShells, there's all these others. My biggest thing is I want to kind of like safeguard myself for longevity, right? So to me, the biggest thing that not necessarily guarantees you, but just increases the length of the time that things is going to be profitable if things do get rough, is getting the most efficient unit, right? Which it's one of two things. It's either the Bitmain unit, which I'm not throwing down 30 grand on an ASIC, or the AL0, right? Which is twice as efficient as the GoldShell units, okay? So specifically for that reason alone, if the price is pretty comparable, I'm going to go with the AL0, especially because it's going to have the flexibility of potentially overclocking, which is not even just a theoretical. It's going to be a thing now. Okay, so shout out to Greater Good Mining. I will put a link to his channel in the description of the video. He does have a little guide for AL0 overclocks. Okay, so it's currently in testing, but it is here. He does have a video on it. They are currently at only limited to a 12% overclock. Will that be the extent of it? Maybe, maybe not. But it's definitely here. It definitely is going to be a thing. And again, even if it only is this 12%, it's going to get you up to 450 gigahash, which is a nice little increase. Okay, if you're interested. I may not. Not sure. It just depends on the strategy here. But a huge shout out to Greater Good for putting up that video. He has a ton of content on any of the zeros for modifications, power supplies, all that good stuff. I will direct you to his because his videos are the best for that. Okay, so we'll have a link to that. But that's also part of the reason that it just makes the IceRiver units so much more appealing than the GoldShells. Okay, also the GoldShells, they did have the early mover advantage, and that's why the prices were up. They're slowly creeping down, right? Because now they have to match the AL0. So for example, the ALBox 2 Plus, which is 1 terahash, which is slightly over 2 of the AL0s. It is continually going down, and realistically, it needs to be down to $1,600. Arguably lower, right? Because now with these overclocks, you might as well spend the same amount of cash and get 2 AL0s. Okay, you have the flexibility of being more efficient as well as currently overclocking to that same hash rate, and it's just more efficient overall, right? So just more flexibility, arguably better unit. Definitely go there. So for me, and as what we've seen, not even just for me, The AL Box 2 Plus, which is the new unit, has just been going down and down in price. And expect it to continue to go down because they are releasing 2 new Alephium ASICs. They do have one listed here, the EL-A1M, which not the worst unit in the world, not something I would spend money on, but to me it automatically kills the Dragon Ball units, right? So for me, the Dragon Ball units essentially are kind of obsolete. This guy's viable. To me, it's going to be overpriced just because it's very likely that IceRiver will release another unit, and that's where my attention would most likely be for any of the mid tiers. Okay. So, and also keep in mind, they also do have a AL Box 2 Pro coming out, which I'll probably do a video in the next day or two. We'll talk about the specifics there. It's not listed here. It's rumor mill, but it's essentially confirmed. We'll talk about that here in another video, though. But as far as the strategy goes, so that's the main reason I'm still, even to this day, comparing to the other units that have came out, the AL0 to me is still the most appealing, right? Risk to reward is a big thing. Obviously, spending 30 grand because it's fairly equivalent, right? As we've seen, efficiency-wise, price-wise, it's pretty comparable to this. So if you're betting that this is going to ROI, then this guy should also. The difference is obviously the price, though, right? You're locked into spending 30K on this thing versus 800 bucks on this guy. Okay, so it's a risk to reward thing for that reason. The AL0 all day also, right? So different things to consider there. Now, as far as the strategy goes, because this is the thing, right? If you're considering buying it, what are you looking at? You're looking risk to reward. You're looking at yield. Like, what is going to work better? Should I just buy $800 worth of Alephium, or should I buy one of these guys, right? Because currently for 800 bucks at Alph's current price, you could buy about 500 Alephium. Will you be able to mine 500 Alephium with the AL0? Realistically, mathematically, looking at it, probably not. So if you're looking at it from that pure perspective, you're going to a mining calculator and you're looking at it from that perspective. When will I ROI? If you're looking at it from that basic perspective, nothing in reality makes sense, right? You have to have strategy behind it. What is the reason you're doing it? What are you looking at? What are you kind of betting on, right? So this is a huge risk to reward kind of thing, okay? And everybody's going to have their own strategies regarding this. Everybody's is completely wildly different. I'll share with you mine. Some of you guys have asked. I have no issue sharing mine. 2 things here. Number 1, just even aside from the ROI thing. Number 1, I don't look at things from like the ROI perspective, right? I'm not buying one individual unit and trying to ROI that one individual unit. I do it from my mine as a whole. All of my units, okay? So some will be very successful, others won't, right? So, but the ones that do, even if it's just 1 or 2, those allow me to continue to take more risks and continue to grow, right? So I try to use that existing mining revenue and go from that. So as I have success there, it allows me to branch out. So part of the huge appeal for me here is the 100 watt aspect. It is something that is profitable, likely to be profitable for quite a while, only 100 watts. Currently, the market, as we have seen it, it's in quite the downtrend. Okay, we don't know what's going to happen. Will it continue? Will it, won't it? We don't know. But at this point, the fact that it's only 100 watts, it's going to guarantee me to continue to mine profitably. Okay, as some of you guys have been following, some of my other big boy ASICs, not the case with them, right? They are unprofitable, have been unprofitable quite a few months. And again, when it's 3,000 watts, it's pretty significant. Okay, so while those guys be unplugged, I did want to continue to add because I do have revenue targets that I want to hit on a monthly basis through mining. Having those things unplugged obviously is not going to get me there, so I wanted to add something that is more efficient to get me through these times in case these times do last quite a while, which hopefully the cycle does begin to pick up and does play out like it has in the past, but it may not. So this is kind of a hedge towards that, right? So that way it's only 100 watts, I can continue to stack. And that's kind of the part of the goal here. Okay, so that's a strategy thing to factor in number 1 for me. Number 2, as far as what I'm going to do with the units, my play with these units isn't to necessarily ROI these units, stack them forever, right? That's also a play, right? If things don't work out and the risk that I'm taking, that's just going to be the play, right? Realistically, that is another thing though. that I'm looking at, that worst case scenario, my strategy doesn't play out, it's only 100 watts per unit, and it's just going to stack all the way through the bull market. Okay. But ideally, what would happen here is I'm essentially placing a bet that sometime between now and potentially the next 6 months, right? Because as we have seen with these IceRiver units, the 0 units, it's typically a 6-month cycle between the next gen, right? Will it happen later? Maybe. Will it happen sooner? Also maybe, right? Again, these cycles and the way they've been releasing the freaking hardware, I wouldn't be surprised. But my personal bet is that Alephium could potentially have a pump between now and the next, let's say, 3 to 5 months. And the plan is, if it does have a significant enough pump, potentially mine what I can now, right, with quite a few units. I did order a total of 4 units. We'll be getting the other ones in later. Stack what I can now, get all the yield early, because again, you're going to get the most amount of yield now while the hash rate and difficulty is the lowest. In 3 to 4 months, it's almost practically guaranteed, regardless of what happens with the market, your yield is just going to continue to go down. Okay, so the most profitable time to mine, because you're getting the most amount of yield, is in the beginning anyway. So ideally, I'm betting on the Bitcoin cycle playing out. Okay, because typically, if we compare it to the previous cycle, currently we are beginning of September. If we look back to 2020, right, which brings us 4 years ago, when did things start popping off? It was in October. Okay, if we go back exactly during this time, you can kind of see the overall chart here. You can kind of see here's where it starts to going into that upwards trajectory. Okay, and look at the timeline. When is it? September 23rd, it's at 10.2. And now fast forward to mid-October, 11.5. And then a week later, 12.9. And the rest is history, just continues upwards. Will it repeat at this exact same time? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe it gets delayed. Maybe it's not exact. And that's why I'm putting in that buffer from any time between now and the next 3 to 4 months. Okay, because if that repeats and if Bitcoin does start going up and to the right, will it happen that fast? Who knows? But if it does, what do you think is going to happen with the alts? Okay, they're going to continue to go up. Currently, Alephium is in a slump. It's down to $1.60, and it kind of just depends on your perspective here also. Okay, for me, this is not a slump, but to me, it's kind of expensive, especially when you were stacking or mining back here when it was under 20 cents. Okay, so a lot of this has to do with perspective. So for me, like, to me, $1.60 is still, not to say that it's overpriced, but it's not appealing for me because of where I purchased that in the past. So for me, like, it needs to go under $1 for me to buy any more. At this point, I would feel more comfortable just mining it. Okay. So if Bitcoin's price does go up in that trajectory, again, very likely we're going to have a significant pump. To what extent, we don't know. We don't even know if it's going to pump, right? We're just speculating that it will. Okay. So again, I'm giving myself that buffer. But again, if BTC does go up to 70, 80, 90K by the end of the year or beginning of next year, expect the Alephium to be up pretty significantly considering how down it is, right? It's currently at $1.60. Our bear market highs was $3.81, and that's all-time high, right? I expect it to fully exceed that. And that's where things change drastically, because then what's going to happen if the price goes up like that? Whatever stock is available is probably going to sell out. The hardware prices are probably going to go up higher. So ideally, best case scenario here, I'm able to stack what I can for these next 3 to 4 months, keep all that yield, and then potentially be able to sell those units for what I paid for them. Maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less, but around that range of what I paid for them, and essentially get that money back and keep that 3 to 4 months of yield, which is the most ideal time to be mining. Because again, it's a game of yield. It's not the fiat profitability, it's the yield. Okay, and the reason I'm saying focus on the yield and like, oh, it's only going to be 1.7, it's going to be under 1 pretty soon. It is. It's going to be probably 0.75 alpha day pretty soon per unit. But again, I'm not selling right now. I'm going to be selling when it matters. So yes, it's only, let's say it goes down to 1 Alephium a day, right? If my target price is, my personal prediction, again, none of this is financial advice, this is just my target prices. I think it's fairly reasonable to say that Alephium will hit a $1 billion market cap sometime in 2025, somewhere throughout the peak. Will it, won't it? We don't know, but I'm placing that bet. And as a matter of fact, I feel pretty confident that it'll go beyond that. But we're going to go based off of this. So at this point, if it hits a $1 billion market cap, it would put it at $11.74. Will it be exactly that? No, because you have to factor in the amount of coins coming into circulation on top of that, right? So you can play around with the calculators. You can increase by the circulating supply just to ballpark it. But again, these are just roundabouts, okay? So again, even if it goes down to 1 Alph a day, I'm valuing that Alph at like $10 a day essentially. Okay, so between now, the next 3 to 4 months, however much I'm able to stack, that's what I'm valuing at. So again, the ideal scenario here would be that throughout that time, before the AL0 Pro or whatever else comes out, that I can potentially sell it for that price and keep all that yield. That to me would be ideal. And that's been the name of the game for me at least, right? Getting the ASICs, getting the most value out of it, selling it. Ideally, hopefully it plays out. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. And then on to the next one. Using that same existing money and just rolling it to the next, generation of hardware, right? Which has been my game plan from the beginning, right? Let's go back 2 years ago, back with the GPU days. Those GPUs paid for themselves off multiple times over. What did I do? Sell those, buy ASICs with them, right? Now those ASICs, I've mined on them, some of them going on 1.5 years now, mining on them, and hopefully being able to sell those for around the same price I paid for them sometime next year. Maybe it works out, maybe it doesn't. And that way I'm just continuing to flip that hardware into newer hardware. So that's why my perspective is different. I don't look at the ROI, I just continue to grow. And the goal with the ASICs at least is to continue to flip them at some point. In some cases, it may not be able to. Like that KS0 Pro, we're now 3 generations later, there's probably going to be a tough sell. Will it be worth something? Will it be profitable? Potentially sometime in 2025 if Caspa goes up enough, maybe. Am I super confident? We'll see, because it's just so antiquated, that technology, right? So it depends on the manufacturer, depends on what's available at that time, how efficient or inefficient it is. Like, for example, you can theoretically say the same thing about that KDA light back there. The difference with that one is that it's so inefficient that KDA would have to go up extremely. I have very minimal to no hopes for that thing doing anything. So I know that's been a lot of people's strategies. They're like, oh yeah, I'll buy these little boxes and they'll be... It has to be somewhere near, right? Maybe 1 generation behind is okay. Dude, that thing is like 3 or 4 gens behind. It's like the inefficiency in comparison to what's out now, and what's out now is like 2 years old, right? Expect a new piece of hardware to come out sometime next year also. So factor those things in. So again, there's a lot of factors at play here. There's a lot of theoreticals, but that's the risk to reward, and that's the risk I'm trying to take, right? So ideally, it's to mine on it, flip that hardware, and then on to the next one. Whether it's another little zero ASIC or putting that money towards a bigger ASIC or to GPUs or whatever is next on the agenda, whatever looks promising from there, right? So again, that's why I say focus on your strategy, like think forward already, think ahead of time. And if that strategy doesn't work out, then I'm just going to be stacking Alephium this whole time, all throughout the bull market. Okay, so again, whether it works out, whether it doesn't, I'm prepared for both scenarios, right? And that's how you need to think about things, especially with ASICs, because you don't have that flexibility. It's not like GPUs where you can mine any other algo. You're on that algo, you're on that coin, and that's it essentially, right? Maybe they'll do forks for this thing, or they'll mine something else, kind of like with like the Caspa ASICs. There is still the hope for other forks, other things to use that algo and things from there. So there's different things that can happen there theoretically also. But again, plan for those things, make a strategy. Does it make sense? Doesn't it make sense? Because I know that's been the big argument, and I'm a big proponent for that, right? Obviously, that's a big argument. Is it going to stack more than just buying it, right? So you have to do what makes most sense to you. That strategy doesn't make sense to a lot of people, and I get it. Again, if I'm first starting, if I'm just in the beginning, then it doesn't make much sense, right? I have a lot of other revenue streams from mining, so a lot of other miners, a ton of miners that allow me to just keep growing like this essentially. Again, some will work well, others won't. This one may not be that great of an investment. Who knows though, right? You have to be in it to win it. Like they say, scared money don't make money, right? So it's up to you. But like for me personally right now, this is kind of the time to really position yourself. Again, regardless of what you're doing, whether it's this thing, any other ASIC, if the cycle plays out like we hope it does, this can potentially start to happen here within the next few months, right? Will it be October like it has in the past? Will it go beyond that? Will it take 3 to 4 months? Will it take 6 months? Or will it not happen at all, right? None of this stuff is also guaranteed. Anything can happen, but I'm placing my bets on that it will repeat at some point within the next 12 months, okay? And that's kind of you have to plan it though, guys. Make your strategy and make it on your own. See how you see the market. You can take other people's opinions into account, but come up with your own strategy. Again, everybody's strategy is different. Everybody's size is different. Everybody's mind's different. Everybody's goals are different, and that's how it should be. You need to mine and do what makes the most sense. Or sometimes not even mine. Sometimes just buying the coin. Like if Alephium goes back down under $1, like it did back here in July, I will be adding to that bag. But for me personally, I'm comfortable with the amount that I have. But if it goes under $1, the risk to reward is amazing at that point, right? Even at this price, it's pretty good, especially considering the bear market highs not too long ago were damn near $4. Okay, so a lot of things to factor in and a lot of thoughts, right? Sometimes people think about it that way. Sometimes people don't. Sometimes people don't care. Like they just want to stack in. You have to come up with a strategy though and see what makes sense. And mining doesn't make sense for everybody, right? It's something that I do, something I see a lot of value in. And it's not for everybody. And not every algo, not every coin. Like it just depends on how bullish you are. Like for me, this was an insta buy for me just because Alephium is already a coin I'm bullish on. It is already a 2025 coin. It's one we've been talking about for the past 2 years. I've been stacking it the past 2 years. So that's why this is also extremely appealing. If it's a coin I'm not too bullish on, even if there is value proposition there, like I just don't have as much interest in it, right? So it really depends on you. It depends on what you're looking at and your strategy and all that good stuff, right? So those are kind of the overall thoughts there. I did want to make a few comments actually also on the RX0 because again, very similar thing here. The development that happened here was this thing sold out. That initial batch did not last very long. I was considering getting one. I kept like flipping back and forth. I was like, maybe, maybe not. And then it sold out. And then what happens once it sells out? It's a supply and demand kind of thing. Okay, so what do you think happened with the vendors is the prices went up, right? So they did go up. So NHash, for example, still does have some slots left for this initial batch, but it is up to $5.39 shipped for a single order. They do have a bulk discount if you're ordering 5+, but it's a very similar thing here, right? The difference being is that number one, this one has less hardware currently online, arguably than Alephium, for example, because they have had the gold shells on for months. The difference here though is a lot of it's a tiny market cap, right? So for me, I'm just personally not as bullish on Radiant, right? I'm more bullish on Alephium, so that's why that one's more appealing. Still decent value proposition here, and I think the biggest thing is the price, right? For $3.99, it's like I should have just gotten one. I may still end up getting one. We'll see what Radiant's price action does here in the next few weeks, because again, this thing doesn't ship until the 20th to 30th, but who's to say that the reseller batches don't sell out pretty soon? Like especially if Radiant does have another pump. It's already pumped a good amount just these past like week, right? And if it continues, then expect these to sell out as well. But again, it's a very similar value proposition, just kind of on a different level, just because this one's a very tiny market cap. So again, this one does not even have to do crazy well in order to have crazy upside, right? So like even if this thing just gets a market cap of 244 million, which is very doable, right? That's not much more. And this is, I'm saying overall in 2025. Obviously it can go well beyond that. Again, Alephium's, we're putting it at $1 billion. Again, I just have more confidence in it. Even if this one, and sometime the bull market only hits around 250, which I think it'll go well beyond that. That's a 12x from here, right? So whatever your yield is, you can multiply that by 12. Or your profitability, like the fiat value of it. So a lot of upside just because, again, it is such a tiny market cap. And, I mean, it's easily manipulated at this point. Not necessarily manipulated, but it's gonna be easy for these manufacturers to pump this thing, right? So expect a Bitmain unit down the road, and if that happens, you know what's gonna happen with that. So again, it's a risk to reward kind of thing. But even if we just compare it to where Alephium is at currently, so this is not even like factoring in where Alephium will be in the bull market, but if it just reaches Alephium, that's 631% up, right? Just to release Alephium's numbers currently in this bear market on a slump right now at $1.60. Okay, so that guy does have a lot of potential. It just depends on what you're looking for, but same kind of thing. And arguably, even like I should have just got one at $3.99, man. That's what I get for waiting. But that's the hard part, right? Is that if you see a good deal, if you see something that's just, again, this one really wasn't on my radar too much. I didn't really see it happening that quick, but it did. Sold out quickly, and I have been kind of eyeing it to see if they would restock, because we did see that initially with some of the other units where it was listed as sold out, but then it would come back in a day. This one so far hasn't, right? If it comes back and the shipping date is still the same, I will probably try to get one. And Hash, again, does have them available, but it is just a little bit pricier just because, again, they sold out from there, right? So risk to reward, you got to see what makes sense. It's crazy times, bro, but I mean, we're going to have to just wait to see what happens. Will this cycle play out? Will we start pumping here in the next few months? I'm personally betting on we are. That's why I'm kind of plugging everything in. I'm turning back on, and I'm preparing for it, right? Maybe it happens. Maybe it's delayed. But either way, I'm ready, right? So let me know in the comments, guys. What do you guys think? Did you guys get your AL0s yet? What do you think so far? Let me know in the comments, guys. Or this RX0, were you lucky enough? Not even lucky enough. We had a full day. I was just super slacking. Did you guys get one of these? Are you guys going to get one? Again, and Hash does have them available for sale still. Do have a referral link. Let me know in the comments, guys. What do you guys think? Please comment, like, and subscribe, guys. Thank you for watching. I really do appreciate it. And I am out.